All right. So I want to talk about over distribution of Pokemon. And to some other degree, it's other collectible card games have this issue as well when they hit a hype cycle. For the most part, it's Pokemon and sometimes Magic, but Magic handled it better, I think, because of the amount of product they have and the amount of different types of product, so they can, you know, run out of one type of product but continually pump out another type of product in the same set so that people don't run out of things, and it's more manageable and it's more even keeled. Anyway, the issue that I'm talking about is the over distribution of Pokemon and other collectible card games. But specifically, let's look at Pokemon because it's the one that's the most apparent. And so you have the hype cycle, and we previously started off Scarlet and Violet, and nobody wanted any of it. And then sometime around just after Twilight Masquerade, things shifted, and people suddenly started to want Pokemon again. Until we got to Surge and Sparks, and so many people wanted it, it disappeared, and then you just couldn't get any Prismatic, and the sets since Prismatic have been terrible, and I myself have been allocated from distribution 0 since Prismatic, and a lot of other stores have maybe gotten 1 or 2 boxes if they're bigger than me, which most stores are at this point bigger than me. And a lot of this is attributed to Whatnot, and other rip and shippers, people opening stuff up online. They have these businesses that they're doing where they can make a lot of money with views and also selling the product while they're opening it up. And that is sucking up a lot of the product. And then, of course, there's scalpers that are sucking up a lot of the product. And there's other individuals, more collectors come out of the woodwork that weren't collecting in previous periods because they were seen as trash sets, but now suddenly the hype is up. And then, of course, people in general start hearing about Pokemon doing well, and people who were not interested in Pokemon are suddenly interested in Pokemon. And that's on the demand side that's causing these issues. And mostly people focus on this demand causing the hype and causing the sucking up of product and the product disappearing and no one able to have any because there's too much demand. But there's also the over distribution, and some other YouTubers and other creators have talked about this idea in that you've got a pie and you've got it in slices, and let's say it's in 12 slices when things were going okay for Pokemon right around Twilight Masquerade. Everyone's getting what they want and things are selling well. But then things start to get really good and demand does go up, so we've got that demand thing going. But then also there's other people that weren't getting slices, or they were just getting a little tiny piece on the slice because they didn't want to get fat. They didn't want to get stuck with a lot of Pokemons. And they start asking for more. So these are game store adjacent places, I guess, sort of like a Masterminds or like a store that sells like Rubik's cubes, and of course Walmarts and Targets. They start wanting more because it's moving better, right? So then instead of taking a smaller chunk, they're taking a bigger chunk of a slice, and then eventually things like Walmart, Target are taking a whole slice, right? Instead of the smaller chunk that they were taking before. But then you have people who at no point ever had Pokemon on their shelves. And, these are some comic stores who never carried any TCGs. Some did. Some would have packs that you could open behind the counter, and they've increased the thing. But then there's other comic book shops never had them. And then you can kind of understand that. They've got similar distributions and they could order it, so that makes sense. But then you've got a flooring store, a store that sells flooring. Somehow, it needs Pokemon packs because everyone needs Pokemon packs suddenly. But where do they get the distribution? Were they always signed up to a distributor that had access to Pokemon packs? Or did they recently sign up and these distributors, let them sign up and let them have Pokemon product even though they've never ordered Pokemon before? And then you've got a car dealership being able to do this. And suddenly the 12 slices have turned into 1,200 slices, or 12,000 slices, or 120,000 slices, or however you want to say it. But the demand is already there, as we've talked about. And now things are over distributed so that when anyone who has demand calls a store, they're told, no, don't got any Pokemon products, or don't have this specific Pokemon product, or can't get this, or I was under allocated and I've already pre-sold it to my regulars, that kind of stuff, which increases the demand, right? People notice it's even harder to get Pokemon, which then increases the desire of other adjacent locations that don't sell Pokemon suddenly selling Pokemon, and the slices get thinner and thinner. And it's not that there's less product, it's that the product was the same, it's just sliced up into smaller and smaller pieces, and it appears to be more scarce than it is. Because, well, I mean, there's more demand, but also the slicing up of it creates the appearance of more scarcity. Now, they will start to make the pie bigger and bigger, and then the slices, while there's more of them, they'll get more product, and then more product will appear in stores, and demand will stay the same at first, but as more and more product shows up, the demand will start to diminish, because the first people that will disappear are the scalpers, because they need to buy it at the retail price, or now the jacked up retail price, because it's well above the MSRP. So now they're spending twice or three times the price on it, and they're selling it to people for like a markup of anywhere from 10 to 50%, so that they can make money. But the minute that there's enough product that they can't sell it for that much, and they can't sell it for more than what they bought it for, or even for what they bought it for, they go, and all their demand goes, right? And then you still have the small slices with increasing amounts showing up in stores, and the scalpers are gone. And then there's the collectors who, there's the general collectors who have always been there and have been collecting this whole time, and were collecting when things were rough, and they may either have not increased or whatever, but they'll stick around. But the new collectors, once they see that the hype is gone, and once they see that it's easy to get boxes, a lot of them will start to dwindle away, and there goes that demand. And then, of course, same thing happens with any new players that maybe they don't enjoy playing the game, although Pokemon's not a player's game, but this applies more to Magic, I guess. And suddenly it's easy to get product, and it's not as exciting as it was, and some of those start to dwindle off. And then you're left with these still thin slices, but more and more product building up. And then suddenly the flooring store and the car dealership broach out, and they're gone, and they're not taking anything anymore, but they're stuck with a bunch of stuff, and a whole lot of people at this point are stuck with a lot of stuff that isn't going to move. And at what point does this start to happen? I guess the canary in the coal mine is the scalper. As soon as you see scalpers not being able to make money, or they're starting to bitch and complain that they can't, make ends meet, or that they can't move product, or, they just seem more desperate, then things are going south. And maybe you don't need as much Pokemon as you thought. That's just my thought. What do you think?